So today I'm going to show you the best route to ensuring your business in compliance and to ensure staff awareness through our cost-effective display screen equipment course. So this course will help to teach all staff members how to adopt a good posture, how to keep your hands and wrists in neutral position, learn how to sit safely when working with DSE, and to also avoid the risks of working with display screens. If any of you do have any questions throughout, please do pop it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer you. But if I don't get the opportunity, then we will pop you over an email, or you can always email us at sales@engageinlearning.com. Okay, so this course in particular includes a downloadable risk assessment, which can be used whenever the learner's workstation changes, and that's available for all of the learners that have access to the course. This also helps to ensure that they'll be working as comfortably as possible and allows the learners to do their training and assessment on the move, because the course is mobile compatible. So they could do it on a mobile device, or they could do it on a tablet, or they could do it on a PC as well. So when we go into the course for the first time, got a bit of an introduction about display screen equipment and what training you're going to be going through. And then you've got some navigation instructions and you can begin the course. So if a learner has been into the course before, they will get the option to continue on from where they left off. And as you can see above, the course has been broken up into 3 or 4 different modules. So the first section, the most important section, is setting up your workstation adequately. So you've got setting up your keyboard, setting up your screen, setting up your mouse, and setting up your chair as well. And then we move on to agile and mobile working, a bit about fact and fiction, next steps, and then our formal assessment at the end as well. Okay, so just a bit of an awareness before I do start going through the training. Some of the features of the course, so that you know what I'm going to be using, are things like we've got our Google Translate in the top-hand corner here, which allows you to select from a number of different languages. We've also got an editor mode, which is currently off, and this just allows you to add in customizable content, policies, procedures, anything like that. And then we've also got the speed button just to the right-hand side, and that's perfect for any learner who tends to read the content faster than how they see it, so they can speed that up. For anyone who wants to listen to the content a bit slower, they can also slow that down. So that's just all available there for you. You've also got the green top bar available there, which goes through all of the different sections. So if you did want to revisit any of those at a later stage, you can just go back into that. So if the learner felt that they weren't sitting at the right position and their keyboard was a bit skew-if, they could just click on keyboard and it would take them straight back to that section. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first section here. Because I've been into the course before, I will just have to replay that for you. Please do let me know if you can't hear any of the audio playing as well.
If you primarily sit at your PC or display screen all day, it's essential that you know how to adjust your working position correctly. This exercise shows you how you should ideally sit. Follow the instructions at the bottom of the screen to start.
So the course goes straight into a quick exercise where you get to have a quick play around with this man sitting at the desk. And you can use either your mouse or your fingers if you're on a tablet to move him around to what you feel is the best position for him. So I'm just going to have a little play, and you can move him around. So for the purposes of this, I'll just have him sitting like that. And then you also get some verbal feedback at the end of it as well, which is helpful.
No, not really. This isn't an ideal working position. To see why, adjust the chair you're sitting in right now and notice how that affects your posture.
Ideally, your forearms and wrists should be level with your work surface and your legs should be clear of the underside of the desk. Adjust the height of your chair to get into the right position. In this position, your hands are properly supported and your wrists have the right amount of movement.
Your feet should be supported firmly on the floor so that your thighs are more or less level. This avoids back strain and keeps your legs relaxed. If at the right seat height your feet do not reach the floor, you might need an appropriate footrest. Make sure it does not angle your feet up, which will put strain on your leg muscles.
The backrest should support you just above the small of your back.
When your head and spine are in the correct position, it helps your breathing and reduces tension in the lower back.
Your shoulders will be more relaxed when your upper arms are close to vertical. pull your seat towards or push it away from the desk until your shoulders feel good. Bring your mouse closer so you can use it in this position.
This is a good working position. To see why, adjust the chair you're sitting in right now and notice how that affects your posture. One final thing. Remember to take regular breaks.
Okay, so that's just the first section that goes through adjusting your chair. I don't know if any of you started to move your chair around a bit and move it up and down, but I know I always tend to sit more straight when I'm going through the course. One thing I didn't mention was the closed captioning on the right-hand side. So this can be closed down, but the reason we have it available is it's really helpful for anyone who doesn't have access to headphones, because our voiceover doesn't mimic the on-screen text. It just contributes to it, and it contributes to the learner's engagement. So that's really helpful, and it's also used when you're doing the Google Translate, so that all of the voiceover can be translated into the chosen language. Okay, so this is just a quick comment about guidelines for breaks and how often you should be having a break as well. Okay, let's move on to the next section, which goes through adjusting your screen and desk.
People who work with display screens, such as PCs, need well-designed workstations with good lighting and adjustable seating. Because you make only limited movements with your arms and head over long periods, it's even more important to take breaks to avoid problems with your hands, arms, shoulders, back and neck.
Okay, so this is a very similar exercise to the above one, and it's quite nice that it goes straight into some exercises for the learner. It gives them more of an awareness, and also makes them think about how they are sitting and how their desk is positioned. So we can move around the screen height, our brightness. Screen angle is always good to be straight, and your keyboard should also be in front of you with your mouse to the right-hand side. Okay.
You're right. This is a good working position. As you go through the feedback, adjust your working position until it's correct.
It's important to have enough space to rest your wrists and to place documents on one side without having to stretch too far. Preferably, you should use a document holder.
To keep your wrists in a neutral position, you can tilt the keyboard slightly using the little feet at the back of it. If you use a mouse, it should be at the same height as your keyboard. You need enough room to rest your wrist so that you can move the mouse accurately. If you're left-handed, move the mouse over to your left side. Make sure the mouse can be used with your upper arms in a vertical position to avoid shoulder problems.
For the purposes of the demonstration, I am just going to pause that there because there is a few sections that I would like to go through. But if you did want to revisit the course at the end, we'd be more than happy to send anyone guest access through. Okay, so from there, you then move on to the risks. And I just want to assure you as well that when the learner does do the training, it is locked down, so they will have to go through all of the sections before they can move on. Okay.
If you use computers, laptops or tablets incorrectly, you may experience fatigue, eye strain, upper limb problems, musculoskeletal disorders or repetitive strain injury, or backache. You may also experience these symptoms if your working environment is poorly designed. Early symptoms of RSI can include mild pins and needles, aching or soreness in your fingers, hands or arms. It might be worse after a long day at work. If you do experience any unusual aches and pains in your neck, shoulders, back, hands, arms or wrists, let your manager know. You can take some steps yourself.
Okay, so that just talks about the risks associated with display screen equipment, and as you are all aware, for someone who is sitting at a display screen on a regular basis, it's really important that they are always sat at the right height and the right position, because they can get serious problems if they are sat incorrectly. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next section, which talks about mouse position, and then it goes on to keyboard position.
You can reduce the chance of developing problems like RSI or MSD by making sure your hands, wrists and elbows are in a neutral position, which puts minimal pressure on the nerves through your arms and decreases friction and strain on your tendons. Take a look at your normal position now and choose the images which are closest to how you look.
This is quite a nice question because it's asking you how you currently use your mouse and which options you might choose. So obviously, because I've done the course before, I know that you probably should be having your hand over the top of the mouse, and it should be in a neutral position. And you could also use a mouse pad to protect your wrist or something to cushion it as well. But it'd be quite interesting to find out what options all of you use currently. So I'm going to go for option 3 and option 6.
That's excellent. Because you keep a straight line through your hand, wrist and arm, your fingers will be slightly curved and relaxed. And because you don't twist your wrist to one side or the other, you keep the muscles in your lower arm relaxed. The way you hold your mouse will reduce the risks of RSI or MSD.
So very similar with the next section, we're going to go on to keyboard positioning.
How do you use a keyboard? Take a look at your normal position now and choose the images which are closest to how you look.
As a quick question, it would be quite interesting to find out which option all of you currently use. So if you don't mind popping in the chat, whether it's option 2 and option 5 or option 1 and option 4, it'd just be quite interesting to see how you currently use your keyboard. Right, okay. So the ideal position for your keyboard would be option 3 and option 6, I believe.
You could improve the way you use your keyboard. Try not to angle your wrists from side to side. Keep lower arm, wrist and hands in a straight line. It's really easy to work at an awkward angle on a small laptop keyboard where space is limited and your fingers are forced at an angle to rest on the home keys. Keep your wrist flat so it's not bent forward or backward. If your wrist is bent, your fingers are more likely to be too straight while typing, and this can stress the muscles in the hand. To maintain a straight line, rest your wrists lightly on the desk or wrist rest.
Sorry about that. I was meant to press option 1 and option 6, but I ended up doing option 3 and option 6. But what is really nice is that if you don't get option 5 and option 1. If you don't get the question correct, it does give you really nice, helpful feedback as to how you should be sitting instead of just telling you off and saying you're sat at the wrong position. So that is really helpful. So from there, you can look at show correct answer. So we can see that option 1 and option 5 are the best positions to use your keyboard. So from this, we're going to move on to our elbow positioning.
How do you use your workstation? Take a look at your normal position now and choose the image which is closest to how you look.
Okay, so I'm going to go for option 2 for the sake of the demonstration.
That's excellent. Because you keep your elbow close to your body, you'll be reducing the strain on the nerves in your elbow. It's also a good idea to place things you use less often so that you have enough space for the keyboard and mouse.
All right, so at the end we've also got some mutual position, hand and wrist feedback, which you can have a look at, as well as elbow as well. So this just goes through hand and wrist and how you should be sitting. This is also available in the risk assessment at the end of the course. And then we've got our elbow positioning as well. So this is correct and that one's incorrect. All right, so we can move on to the next section, how we can minimize the risk. All right, so it seems like our sound has gone. Can everyone hear me? I can't find our chat. Right, I'm just going to move on to the next section.
You can identify the possible risks of your specific workstation using this checklist. It asks questions that reflect possible risk factors and suggests what you can do to make sure you've set up your workstation to avoid any potential health problems. Use it regularly and whenever you change your workstation in any way to ensure you are always working as comfortably as possible.
That's it for setting up your workstation. The next topic is mobile working.
Right, perfect. So at the end of this first section, I've got the opportunity to download my risk assessment so that I can assess my workstation on a regular basis. That risk assessment is printable as many times as you like, which is really helpful. So every time you do change your working position or if you do hot desk, we do advise that you do your risk assessment every single time. So let's move on to the next section. You can either return to the home page and go into mobile working via there, or we can just continue on at the bottom. So from this, I can take my post-test for that first section, return to main menu, or continue on to mobile working. Okay, so the first section goes through working with laptops, which I'm sure most of you might already do.
Laptops are very convenient to use.
but they aren't ergonomically ideal for long-term use unless they are properly set up. If you use a laptop for prolonged periods, what issues stop you getting in a good working position?
So can you identify the issues around working with laptops? So it's a multiple choice question which you can go through. So things like space to move hands and arms freely, adjusting the height of the screen readability, its weight, keeping a laptop clean, and the position of your wrist. These are all important issues which must be considered when working with your laptop. So go for that for the purposes of this.
We don't agree.
Okay, and we've just got some feedback as well. So you can see that its weight, top two and the bottom one are really important. You can also expand on all of
Because the mouse pad is small and fixed in position, your fingers and wrists can be strained. Because the keyboard and monitor are joined and can't be adjusted separately, it's very hard to achieve a relaxed, neutral posture and can increase musculoskeletal stress. Laptop screens are able to provide sharp letters and adjustable colors, brightness and contrast for good readability. If you have to carry your laptop around, it can cause problems if carried over one shoulder. If possible, use a laptop backpack with wide straps and use both of them. A rolling case is an excellent alternative. A laptop is no harder to clean than a normal screen and keyboard. Laptops have smaller keyboards and it can be difficult to keep your wrists in a straight line with your elbow.
Okay, so from there we talk about setting up your laptop.
To avoid the turtle posture, hunched back, protruding neck and head, make the laptop like a desktop. Use a desk. Don't use a laptop on your lap. Sit at a desk or table and definitely don't lie down to use it. Use separate mouse and/or keyboard so you can let your shoulders relax and your hands be at elbow level. Place laptop on a riser or use a separate monitor so the screen top is at or slightly below your eye level. To reduce fatigue and eye strain, place the laptop screen perpendicular to windows and avoid bright light sources. Take breaks at least every 30 minutes for 1 to 2 minutes and alternate tasks. And finally, carry in a rolling case or a proper backpack.
Okay, so that just talks about setting up your laptop. And what is nice, if you do find that you're not using a laptop regularly and you wanted to revisit this section, you can just use the green top bar and go back into setting up your laptop so you can do that adequately. Talk about flexible working next.
Being able to work flexibly can really improve our work-life balance. Often people work at home for some of the week and when they come into the office, use an available hot desk. Do you have a hot desk?
Okay, so with this question, if you do find that you do hot desk, you'll then get an answer which will give you relevant feedback. And if you don't hot desk, you can simply select no. It will give you some initial feedback and then you can move on to the next section, which is really helpful. So people who don't hot desk don't need to spend their time on this section. So for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to say that I do hot desk.
When you set up your hot desk, build this checklist of actions into your routine. First, adjust the chair. Alter the seat height, seat tilt and backrest to work for you. Check that your feet are flat on the floor or a footrest, your upper arms are hanging vertically, and your forearms are horizontal. Adjust the backrest to support your back in a comfortable position. Then adjust the screen. The top of the screen should be at your eye level approximately. If this means that your feet don't reach the floor, use a footrest. If you're using a laptop, you may need to use a dock station or external monitor. Thirdly, arrange the mouse and keyboard for free movement of your wrists. If you're using a laptop, you may need to use a dock station or external keyboard. Finally, position the screen. Position it so there's no glare. If you need to, close or reposition the window blind.
This is a really helpful checklist for anyone who does flexibly work. And what's nice is that because the checkpoints do come up on the screen, if the learner did want to make any points to refer to at a later stage, they can do. And as it doesn't instantly move on and they can pause it, they can just write those notes down before moving on to the next section, which then talks about flexible working at home.
The information in this course also applies to home working situations. Do you work from home?
So very similar to the above question, if you do work from home, you'll get another checklist which will give you relevant information, and if you don't, you can just move on. So I'm going to say that I do work from home.
When you start working from home, you'll have to go through our risk assessment checklist. The assessment might show that you need an adjustable chair or a footrest, and if you take a laptop to and fro, you may need an external monitor and keyboard. Check with your manager if you are unsure.
This is quite a popular section for our customers who did want to customize it. So if you do have a specific policy regarding flexible working at home, then you'll be able to include that information into that key point really easily. Okay? The next point, going on to mobile devices, which is very important in this day and age. Everyone does own a mobile or a tablet or something similar. So it's really important that the learners at your organisation know how to use those effectively.
Do you use a smartphone or tablet? If you do, have a look here for some guidelines on using them safely.
Okay, so we've got some really helpful guidelines on how to use your tablet safely and how to use your smartphone safely. I'm going to go into the smartphone one because this is the most popular option when it comes to people at work using a mobile device.
If you use a smartphone for more than an hour a day, you need to take steps to minimize the risk of fatigue, neck pain, musculoskeletal disorders, and eye strain. If you make long phone calls, try to use a hands-free device so you aren't stuck in an awkward posture. Put a limit on the duration and frequency of calls, texts, and emails. Alternate your hands and maintain a neutral wrist position when holding the phone. Do something else for at least 10 minutes every hour, and micro breaks for a few seconds every 10 minutes can also help. And reduce keystrokes with text shortcuts, or where you can, use speech recognition applications.
All right. So a bit of a general safety reminder, make sure you're never using a mobile phone whilst you're walking, driving, or riding a bike. So from there, you can either move in to have a look at the tablet use and how you should use your tablet most effectively, or if you don't use a tablet, then you can just continue on to the next section where we go into fact or fiction. Okay, so we've got two busting some myths sections, which are quite relevant in this day and age because a lot of people feel that there are certain implications with DSE which aren't true, or some which they don't believe are true, which actually are true. So this is quite a helpful section about some true or false statements.
There are a lot of myths associated with display screen equipment. Do you know what's true and false? Select the facts in this list.
Okay, so we've got a number of different statements which the learner can go through and decide whether it's true or false. So most people who work with computers will get RSI or MSD. I'm going to say that one is false because it doesn't happen on all occasions, and as long as the learner has got an adequate risk assessment and training, then they shouldn't be getting that issue. Okay, working with computers won't affect your eyesight. That isn't true because that is true. And then working with computers causes headaches. Computer screens don't give out harmful radiation. That's quite a common myth that we find. It's wise to avoid computers if you're pregnant, and using a mouse cannot cause RSI. So let's just say false, and we'll go for that and see what feedback we get.
If you would like more information, please move your mouse over the options you're interested in. If you have any issues, concerns, or worries, talk to your manager as early as possible.
Okay, so to find out some extra information, you can just expand on any of these key points, just to find out more about the true or false myths. Okay, so we're going to move on to the final section of busting some myths.
What about these statements about the specifics of working with display screens? Can you select the facts from this list?
So again, this will depend on all organisations, but in general retrospect, things like I'm entitled to an eye test paid by my employer, that is true. And if someone does work on a display screen on a regular basis, then they are entitled to get an eye test, which is paid by the company. I'm entitled to a monthly chiropractor appointment paid for by my employer. I would say that's false. My upper arm should hang vertically. Portable computers aren't covered by DSE, and my eyes should be level with the top of the screen. So let's say.
Excellent. Well done. Move your mouse over the statements if you want further information. Select Next to move on to the next steps, including a summary of the course.
Okay, so from there again, you can just expand on any of those key points to find out more about whether they're entitled to an eye test and why they can't get a chiropractor appointment paid for their employer. Just aspects like that. Okay, So from there, we're going to move on to the next steps, which just finalises everything that we've just been through in the display screen equipment course.
We take our responsibilities as an employer to make sure you are working safely very seriously.
As one of your next steps, please check that we have undertaken these actions to minimize any risks to you.
If you feel we haven't completed any of these actions properly, please talk to your supervisor.
To help you minimize any health and safety risks of working with display screen equipment, we've shown you how to set up your workstation correctly, provided a detailed checklist with guidance to help you through the process of setup, explained how to make sure your wrists and hands are in a neutral, unstressed position, explored the specific issues of working with laptops, reviewed what steps to take when you hot desk or work from home, spelled out our responsibilities, and answered some frequently asked questions about health and working with computers.
Okay, so that's the end of the course. I'm just going to return to the home page and quickly show you the downloadable ebook, which does come with all of the health and safety courses. And it's really helpful because not only can you download it and have it on your screen, you can also download it to your mobile device and you can use it in the workplace, and you can also print it off, and it might be quite nice to print this off and give it to every employer so they've got that on their desk and they can then refer to that or refer to the online course as well. So I'm just going to adjust that. So it is an interactive ebook and risk assessment. So if you did want to revisit a particular section, you can just click on that and it will take you straight through to the section which talks about fact or fiction. And then we've also got our employer's responsibilities and your outcomes. So again, this is interactive, so you can just tick off all of those key points which apply to you. And if there are any issues, then it would be best to address it to the supervisor as well. So things like, are your feet flat on the floor or footrest? Tick yes, and obviously anything that you can't tick yes for, then that issue does need to be addressed. So is your back supported? Are your feet flat on the floor? Okay, so that is savable. So if you did want to save your progress and return to it at a later stage, you can as well. Okay, go back into the course. So along with your downloadable ebook and risk assessment, we've also got our most important section, which is the end of course assessment. So within there, we've got 4 sections with a variety of questions within each of those sections, and they do use a question bank. So if a learner goes through the first section and they might fail it, they'll then go through it again, but they might not get the same questions as they would have on the first occasion. So let's have a quick look at setting up your workstation. So you've got 6 different questions. So what are the risks of using display screen equipment incorrectly? Select all that apply. So you've got a multiple choice question. I am just selecting randomly just for the sake of the demo. You can see the correct answer, and then you've also got some written feedback down at the bottom. So you'll go through that, read the question, and answer it. Once you've gone through all of those 6 questions and completed all of the 4 sections, you'll then have the opportunity to print off your certificate to show your record of achievement, which has been CPD certified as well. Obviously, if the course is being supplied on your own learning management system, then you can supply your own certificate and we can also turn those off. But if you don't have a learning management system for the course, then we can also host on our learning management system so that you've got a reporting dashboard to keep track of everyone's usage as well. Okay, so that's the end of the course. I really hope I've been able to sufficiently cover display screen equipment and give you all a better understanding of the implications and how you should be correctly setting up your workstation along with mobile working and busting some myths. Hopefully I can answer any questions that any of you might have, but if you don't have any questions at the moment, or if you would like to have access to our demonstration portal to have a look at this and our other courses available, then do pop us over an email either via your account manager or through our main link, which is sales@engaginglearning.com.